Hello, and welcome back to TPK Roleplay. Thank you so much for joining us for TPK Con 2021, at least the first. I'm not sure if there's going to be a second. This panel is for a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. It is all about players, the players for TPK. And I have brought on this panel three very important players to me, who have also been incredible GMs for the channel, as you probably recognize. But today we're going to be talking about their playing experiences, tips for playing, and just in general playing for TPK, acting for TPK. And speaking of acting, let's go around real quick, starting with Saint, and we'll do counterclockwise. I want to know, let's do introductions, but I want to know your general acting experience, whether it be TTRPGs or otherwise, and then let's talk about some of your TPK roleplay acting experience as well. So, Saint, please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm DMF Saint. I'm a GM here on TPK Roleplay for Roundhouse. I also play in the Bars of Frayne and in several of the one-shot randomized things like last night. You might have seen me being a very strange little gnome. Yeah, so my acting experience, I started acting more than just high school kind of plays and things. Actually around like 13 or 14. And I got involved in a theater company that I was involved in through 20. And then I went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York City, where I graduated with a degree in musical theater performance. I worked semi-professionally in the industry as a singer-actor, also did concerts and things like that. And then I gave it up for restaurants. And for the TTRPG experience, I GM the shows here and on Nat 20. The sessions that I've been in over here on TPK were a Harper's episode very early in season 1. That was my first thing over here. And then Bars of Frayne and the randomized one-shots. That's really it.
Very good. Very good. Let's move down to the bottom right. And HP, would you please do your introductions and talk about your general acting experience and TPK roleplay in general?
I definitely will. I am the Last Hit Point Hero, and I have been hanging around these parts for a little over a year now, I suppose. As far as general TTRPG experience, I have been playing games for 20 years, almost exclusively Dungeons and Dragons. As far as acting experience and those sort of things, besides just a couple plays, not much else. For me, coming to TPK was the Desert of Dread one shot that netted just a fantastic group of now DMs and excellent members of the community and people that we just absolutely adore, who slipped in through this little one shot that Kohlrabi ran that we did our best to try and break. So that was my initial run into to TPK, and have absolutely loved it ever since.
Very good.
As far as what I'm doing, yeah, that's the other part. Right now, I am finishing up Darkest Night, Brightest Light. We only have about 2 sessions left, so that will be done about a month from now. That is a Curse of Strahd campaign that I started on my own channel, and with some of the just great people in it that wanted to do great and awesome things with, being entertainers. I thought, well, why don't we get associated with this channel that I heard of that's pretty cool. So I asked Kohlrabi if he'd adopt the game, and somewhere around session 6 or so, we moved over here, and that's been our home. And then every other Friday is Cold Hands, Warm Hearts, which is Rime of the Frost Maiden. So I think that's the general introductions of myself.
Good. And Sarah.
Hi. Oh, 1 second. I'm hearing myself and it's awful. There we go. Hi, I'm Osara X Franco, and as far as acting experience goes, I did high school drama. Like, surprise, surprise. My big claim to fame was I played Elizabeth in Pride and Prejudice my senior year. It was a lot of fun. I had a horrible accent. As far as my TTRPG experience, I play in a variety of shows, both here on TPK Roleplay and over on Nat 20 as well. My very first session, Saint, I believe we had the same first session on TPK Roleplay.
Was Aldani's first session your first?
Yep,
I didn't know
on the Harper season 1. It was a lot of fun. It was also a very meaningful TTRPG experience for me. But since then, I've continued to play in the Harpers. I'm in Dark Echoes. I'm in Roundhouse Alpha Omega. I'm in Morningstar, DM'd by Saint over at Nat 20 against the Tides. One project I'm really excited about is Smash Cut over there. But like, it just a variety of things, and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to talk about that today.
And I am Tyrant. I, in terms of acting experience, don't have any outside of what I do here at TPK. And so it was a very interesting transition from only doing home games and playing GMing and playing just with friends in a closed off environment, and then coming here onto the screen in general and learning different tips and tricks and becoming a better player and actor for it. And kind of in that shared experience, I do want to take a moment to talk about everybody's first game here at TPK Roleplay. I know some of them were discussed briefly. Saint and Sarah, both of you were in the first game for your first game here at TPK. So let's start with both of you, whichever one. Let's just start with Sarah in reverse order. Sarah, talk about your experience with your first game here at TPK. How did you feel? How did you do? Did you enjoy your first performance? And obviously, how much would you say you've grown in your acting competency since then?
So I mean, I had done streamed games before. I was on Luca's Curse of Strahd on her channel. I'd played home games for, I think it was like 5 years leading up to that. So I'd done like the role-playing stuff a lot. The thing that stood out to me with that session in particular was just how immediate the like yes and was. That session was the first time I feel like in a TTRPG game that I like brought my character, and there were people at the table who were like, "Yep, we're here for it. We're gonna support what you do," and like not only that, we're gonna lean in. And like it just the energy was completely different than anything I'd experienced because it was just incredibly supportive. Both Saint and the Noir and Kohlrabi were in that session, and that's like whenever I like talked about TTRPGs and like why they're fun, like that was it. Like I showed up with my character, I was trash. Like it was like I was there to play a game. I had my character, I had an idea of what it was, but I didn't really know what it was. But it was so liberating to just like come out and say like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing with this character, and everybody was like, sick, we're here for it. Like we even had like a PvP moment in that session, Saint, and I'll let you talk about that if you want. But like it was a lot of fun. It was incredible, and it felt like that's when it clicked for me. Like this is what TTRPGs can feel like, and ever since then, it's been like this is what it should feel like. And I've had that feeling time and time again with not only like each and every one of the people on the screen right now, but multiple times at TPK Roleplay, and it's been really, really rewarding.
I kind of had a very similar experience because I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I knew of TPK. I had seen TPK because I discovered all of y'all from Luca's stream of the Curse of Strahd, like from way back in the day, Into the Mists. And then from that, I discovered TPK and joined up for that Harper session. And like the character of Tan was already really established before that, so I knew what I was coming in with. And I did that intentionally because I really kind of wanted, I didn't know these people. And so I wanted a level of comfort for what I was doing so that I could spend my focus on everyone else. Which I think is the key takeaway that I took from that experience was, like Sarah said, the yes and was there from the beginning. And everyone in that session, in my opinion, was an expert at juggling spotlight. Like there was a lot going on and we split the party like 4 different ways at one point. And Luca was a champ, like making sure that everybody was getting their time. But I think everyone's character had a chance to shine through as well. As far as the PvP moment, I will say that in that particular session, I had kind of identified the fact, Sarah, that you were kind of coming out of that shell a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Noir is Noir.
He's amazing.
So like I saw the 2 of you doing that and Tan kind of gravitated towards you guys. And the PvP situation that happened was in my opinion the better side of what my character would do.
It was amazing. Hands down, I'll just cut you off. It was great. It was that like, oh, this is how these moments could be. It doesn't have to be antagonistic and shitty. Like it was great.
And like everybody was very responsive to me, like frantically typing in between scenes, like, oh my God, please tell me if this is not okay. So yeah, it was a great experience. It made me realize that I wanted to stick around here for a while because there were some great people here doing some great things.
HP, your first experience playing for TPK was Desert of Dread, correct?
Yes, it was. Yep.
Go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think it was interesting because Desert of Dread was really intended to be an introductory adventure for a couple different players all at the same time.
Right.
And so I'm fairly certain that Magic and JK and Heck and myself, that was all 4 of us, at once, first exposure playtest, with Kohlrabi leading the way. And that interaction was one that, the entire point of the module was to, go through these mechanical steps of shoring up the fortress so the zombies didn't get in, and all of us just did our best to break the whole thing. That from the very beginning, and there's something that's very interesting about what happened in that. And we all knew that we wanted to be part of this streaming channel that had multiple shows, and we wanted to be involved, and it showed me, even in that, with just the people that wanted to associate it with TPK Roleplay, that there is a big difference between wargaming and role-playing.
Yes.
And even though I've, played D&D for 20 years, I spent a lot of that time wargaming, not role-playing. And the shift just coming to, it was just in the few months before that game, I just started playing a game with friends or people I met online more or less randomly, and became friends with since then, and still in a very same game with them. But that experience there was me going, well, what if I lean into role play a little bit? And then I found the channel. I was like, I think I do want to do this for a while. It's fun. I think I'm good at it. And that's a nice feeling. And so I think that's what I've always loved about being here at TPK is this is where you can play games to role play. It's, none of us are arguing with Luca Locke or Kohlrabi or Saint or anybody else about the minutia of the rules of the combat because we're worried we're going to lose. We're, biting our fingernails because somebody is, dramatically going to sacrifice themselves at any moment, and it creates a very different experience and a very much more beautiful experience. So
Yeah, and unfortunately, those of you who try to find my first foray into the TPK world will not be able to find it. It is one of the legendary lost episodes of Harper Investigation Season 1. I know, it was the St. Patty's Day episode where myself and some of the original Harper cast before the Thunder Tree incident went around and just enjoyed a festival. It was real nice. My character got to experience what happens in a Lukalak game when you drink anything. So it was real good. But if you're gonna look, the first ever episode that I was in that we will consider today was my first episode with Gruff, the Minotaur Barbarian from Harper Investigation Season 1. And that kind of first foray to streamed gaming, playing a character that was actively trying to undermine the rest of the party while also being supportive, having that unique kind of conflict there made me really invested in the game. And kudos so much to Luca for allowing me to do that. It was actually kind of, I was like, hey, I want to be like a Minotaur Barbarian. She was like, hey, you want to be evil? I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. So just being given the opportunities to do things that are kind of outside of the box and out there, and never having your creativity being limited, hampered by the GMs that you play for here at TPK has allowed, I think, every player that TPK has fielded to grow and change in some way. And we, as players, at least myself, I owe at least most of my TTRPG awareness and ability to play in a setting like this to those GMs and those other players that have made this possible, made that growth possible. But continuing on, I want to talk real quick about perceived differences between home games and stream games, because as I've said, moving from home games exclusively to stream games exclusively, it was a big kind of jump there. So let's go in reverse order. HP, what is your experience with non-streamed games versus streamed games, and do you have any differences that you can identify both as a GM and as a player that you would like to highlight for our audience?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long time since I played a home game at this point, which is kind of funny. But for a long time, home games, that was it. It was, there's no other purpose. Half of it is just to get around with, hang out with your friends for the weekend. Most of it is, at least for me for so long, it was, all right, yeah, we're just going to make obscure movie references and comic references. And, as soon as someone makes the first Monty Python reference, we all just shout and stand up and throw dice at them. And, it's a very different kind of game than a streamed game. And especially a streamed game that's done for the entertainment purpose. It's something I think that Saint was one of the first ones to send me something that said, hey, remember, this is a show, keep that in mind. And that's just part of his, introduction. That's part of what's going on. And it is the difference. You act differently when you're just playing around with your friends, as opposed to when you are putting something out there that's, you want to create something that you hope people will enjoy, that will entertain them. And all of that, plays into that. So that's I think the big difference is your purpose is different in a lot of ways. You still want to have fun with a streamed game, but it's done differently.
The Saint.
I think, I mean, HP said it. It's a show, not a game. People are watching your streamed game for entertainment. Like, nobody tunes into Twitch to not be entertained. Nobody tunes into a podcast. Nobody tunes into YouTube. Like, the goal of going to those websites is to be entertained. And I think the main difference for me is that, first of all, the home games can derail completely, and you can spend like an hour arguing over whether pineapple belongs on the pizza you just ordered. The home games can get like mired down in the minutia of rules, like justifications and rules, mechanics, and how they work together. When it comes to a streamed game, because people are watching this, the second that you start breaking down that fourth wall, people will stop watching. It's as simple as that. So the internal perspective of what other people are seeing isn't easy. Like, I don't think that everyone could be on a streamed game. Like, I think that there's that kind of for lack of a better word, stage fright of like, it takes a special kind of approach to separate yourself, to still do what you're doing, but still focus on yourself. It's like dancers looking in the mirror. You're not looking at the mirror to like judge yourself. You're looking in the mirror to see how you look. Like, are my lines correct? Is my posture correct? And I think that's the only difference for me. And like, sometimes with like GMing a streamed game, I definitely tend to gravitate towards more dramatic, more meaningful, more powerful, more like swinging content, like swinging across the whole spectrum of emotions.
Yeah. And Sarah, before you dive into it, earlier today in Iron DM, you kind of explained a little bit of the difference between you'd be able to run this one shot now as it is as a home game, and you would want to spend a little more time with it before putting it on screen. Is there anything like that in your experience that has gone into your prep as a player?
I think, yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what HP and Saint said. I feel like, from my perspective, like, it's interesting as a player, the more I do it, the more comfortable I get with it is one thing. So I would encourage anybody who is experiencing that stage fright that Saint kind of maybe mentioned, to still, like, if that's something you want to do, practice makes perfect. Doing the thing over and over and really committing to it. But like, folks know, like, if you play with me in a streamed game, I'm trying to take notes. I'm trying to be like actively aware of what's going on with like every other player.
Whoa. What's this trying to take notes crap?
Mm-hmm. Right. I maybe I'll like pop behind the screen here in a second and grab all of my notebooks to just share, but like, I try to actively be more aware of like what's going on with each character in each moment, so I can like better share the spotlight and better understand the narrative, so I'm not like, what was that again and who said what, and like, but at a home game 100% I'm stuffing my face with like salty snacks and drinking beer and like being an idiot, because it's just inherently different, right? And I think they are both good. I think they're both good. I miss home games. I miss that kind of like a little bit more relaxed kind of thing. And that's not to say that like streaming isn't like fun or engaging, but it is just inherently different. When I like sit in front of a camera and like go to do the thing, like it becomes important to like be in character, versus in a home game. If I were in character all the time, my friends would be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just different. But I think it's really rewarding. Like, one of the questions you asked earlier is like, do you think, like, where would you say you've improved as a player? I would hope to say that I've improved because I've been doing it consistently for over a year now. But again, like, it's still fun, and that's something I think is important to preserve. But it's just, again, I think there's a different pressure on the performance aspect rather than just let's play a game. There is a performance element to it.
Right. And, my experience with the two different sides of TTRPGs, being in a home game versus being in stream, is I do think there is this element of I have to continue acting and I cannot break character and I can't step away. And like I said, there are elements of that when you start to break the fourth wall and you start to talk about mechanics and all of this different stuff, you lose viewership. And so there is that general experience of wanting to go on with the show. What I think is really cool is that there are a lot of elements built into games at TPK where this idea of the home game feeling has been brought to the TPK live screen. An incredible example is Lukalak in Dark Echoes, one of our Curse of Strahd streams here at TPK. Luca creates these incredible handouts from herself, handouts that she gives out and she uses to progress narrative and story in the game. What's really cool is a lot of the handouts that she gives out on stream, she actually has physical representations that she's created for her players in real life. And so it's that kind of that mental preparation and that physical preparation that goes into, I'm doing this not only for stream, but I'm doing this so that my players who are in real life will have these physical, manifestations as well. That kind of stuff is amazing, not only for stream wise, because it kind of shows the more preparedness, but it also is really cool for the player because we're being sucked into the story even more so because we have these objects that we can hold on to tangibly. Not only that, but kind of that feeling of a home game twist. Like you feel like you can get away with a lot more in terms of narrative flexibility in home games than you can in stream games. Well, in most instances, if some of you have been over on Nat 20 and have seen Smash Cut, thank you, fucking mind blank, then you know how crazy some stream games can get. But for those of you who, and I'm using the example of Dark Echoes a lot because it's an incredible stream and, multiple players are in this call. The example of using and take your headphones off if you are watching it and you're not caught up, because spoilers, but using a player through 9 episodes to hide the BBEG, and we create connections with this player, this character, and we feel like we know this person, and then just the betrayal and the preparation for that betrayal off camera. I felt like I was in person being stabbed in the heart. So like having that element of like we can get away with these things because we can all sit around and we trust each other, and it's like we have been friends for long periods of time. That sort of narrative storytelling where like we're comfortable with each other to the point of one of us is going to betray the others in just such a wild way. I think that kind of home game element is really cool that we have been able to put into some of our TPK games. But we are going to go to break real quick, and we are going to come back, and we're going to talk more about specific mechanics and specific moments that new players and old players both can use in games as examples and whatnot to make their playstyles more elevated. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Hello and welcome back. Just a heads up, last hit point hero HP had to leave. He had a family emergency, so he had to dip out of the call early, but no worries, show must go on. But we are going to dive into first some notable TPK acting moments. And there are a few that I definitely want to talk about. So just real quick, we'll just kind of field it out there for anyone to answer. What are some acting moments from players or GMs that have impressed the hell out of you from TPK shows?
Saint, you want to go first? I mean, I've got some stuff.
Go for it. Because I have a feeling at least like 2 of the ones on my list are the same ones you've got.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm one moment that like still blows me away a little bit. It was Proper in Roundhouse with Famine and that interaction. He just like went in and like was fully a character who, and just that scene I think was beautiful. It was moving. It was all the things, right? And I was highly impressed with that. And I think that's been a moment that I like personally was like, that's the goods. Like that was just a really good character moment. Yeah. Selfishly, another moment is from the Bard's Refrain. There was a really beautiful moment between Elliot and Rael where they kind of broke down some of the stuff, and I can see Saint being like, I'm scared. But like it was so like it was cool to see 2 characters connecting, right, and having a meaningful moment. And I again, it's a little selfish because it wasn't it. I was GMing, but I just think it was. I find the moments, it can be really difficult to be vulnerable on stream. One note I would make in home games, I probably would cry more in home games than I would on a streamed game because I'm kind of like, keep it together, man. But like watching other people like get vulnerable and go there with their characters and have softer touching moments, I think is really powerful. And I really appreciate that. I would say those are my, for a third, just to round it out, that's very challenging. Gosh. I mean, Turk doing the creepy Strahd thing in Dark Echoes was pretty fucking memorable. Like that was intense. So I would say, I mean, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. Absolutely. Saint, if you need a second, I can go through mine.
Okay.
So the Strahd one, just the interaction between Turk playing Strahd and Sarah playing Irina. Not, Sarah not knowing exactly what was going on in the moment, but we have, that's one thing I do want to bring up, is a lot of times when we have these stressful moments, there is a lot of communication behind the scenes so that everyone knows that, it's a green light, everyone's fine, we are acting, no one's got hard feelings or anything like that. So being able to just have such a commanding performance between the 2 of you, such an emotional performance was incredible. That being said, I don't know if I have ever experienced such an iconic acting duo as Thomas and Marty in Roundhouse Season 1. I can't tell you any specific, well, I can name at least one, but like every single scene that you 2 acted in was just blew away everything I ever like hoped to achieve as an actor for TPK, and it has made me better because it's, elevated my perception of like what can be great. Specifically the fucking tinfoil hat moment where it was very much just like, hey, I have an idea, and you were like, yep, let's get this going, and you just immediately, both of you, connected. And I mean, I say that is the moment, but that was like the entire season, the entire campaign for you two. So having you two doing that, and then doing all of that while also all of the fucking chaos from me and just everyone else in that campaign, it was just truly beautiful. Another moment that really stuck out to me was in Harper Investigations season 1, the finale part 2. The angry, heated interaction between Turk's Nicholas and Tony's Brazilul, the controlled fight, just like because we all knew that everyone was okay, but being able to have a tense, angry, almost coming to blows physical moment between characters and have that be believable while being fine as players and people is amazing. I honestly, like, we covered this topic in one of our more recent Murder and Coffees, player conflict and conflict resolution in games. How do you manage that? And honestly, I think you truly need to be comfortable with the people that you're doing it with, and also you need to be resolute in your ability to just take a breather and realize that you are on screen, you're acting, and while you may be contributing to this tense scene, you need to maintain control. And I think that Turk and Tony being able to have their characters butt heads and really go at it, harsh names being called and all of this and that, it was an incredible moment to see. And there's a lot of other moments that I could call out, but those 3 and those combos are definitely ones that, if you have not seen those episodes or those combinations live, definitely go check it out on YouTube, because it is something to behold. But I want to pass it on over to Saint to see what he has to say.
So first of all, I think I'm a little disappointed in both of you that you didn't single out the greatest acting moment in the history of TPK. Everything that Atmosphere did.
Atmosphere is amazing.
Randomized one shot. I'm
so good.
Kidding. So I will definitely second Sarah. Here's the thing. All of mine are going to be selfish. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to second what Sarah said about the scene between Famine and Proper, because that was one of those moments as a GM when, like, I had an idea for what was going to happen, and then he just made a left turn, and I'm like, this is a more scenic and interesting route. We're taking this one now.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, your moment in season 1, which I can't remember which finale it was on or which episode it was on, but your moment between Alri and Nora. When Nora was just kind of unloading on her and Alri was like just taking it. I thought that was a very meaningful moment between characters that kind of opened up the door to what was going on behind the scenes a little bit more than the viewers had seen before that. And I will also say your scene with your husband in this season of Roundhouse with Janet. And the reason I say that is because one of the things, like you mentioned about being like vulnerable on screen, there's so much of acting. Acting is giving. Like, it is just opening yourself up and like saying, here is all of it. Because whenever you kind of put filters on that, it doesn't seem natural. It doesn't seem real. Like the biggest differences between like great performances and good performances are they gave everything of themselves and they just like said, this is me. And I think you really let go in that moment and gave completely. I know that you were probably trying to keep it together, but you definitely gave more than the other times you've cried on screen. I really did like Foxy's breakdown moment with his mom too, in Roundhouse. And then the same moment with Elliot and Rael in the
Mhm.
church.
I'm gonna
That was
pop-
the first one that came into my head.
Yeah, no, that was magic. It was two guys sitting down and just like that's that good TTRPG stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's the collaborative storytelling that like I'm here for, that I want to participate like in and with and engage. Like it's the stuff. A couple of things. One of like I've got some honorable mentions. Dev and Raven Crest as Willie, just so good. Dev as Willie is everything, and I would give anything to have that character back in anything ever again. Honestly, like Saint, I know you were kind of joking, but that first randomized one shot, like the pure, just like we all just are settling into these characters and going with it. There was a lot of really like JK's control in that was just inspiring. I truly like it was nuts and just very like
I
that's
forgot how consistent and like real his
level-headed.
character was. Like,
Oh
yeah.
it was really impressive. And what's been so cool about all of this, like all of these moments, is like each time somebody comes and like does the thing, it's like, oh shit, like that's it, and like gunning for those things. And I think like again, like it's just it's cool to watch people do things that they're passionate about. It's cool to watch people like be in a moment and do the thing. And the one thing like with streaming is the nice part is you get to go back and see those things and have those things and be in those moments. And it's really, really, really great. I like it a whole bunch.
Yep.
But I do want to
Well-
talk about that Janet moment because I have things.
Well, I want to open it up to questions that you guys might have for each other. So I know you guys might have things that you want to talk about in regards to playing for TPK. So if there's anything you want before jump forward, please.
So one thing I want to touch on, like I joked about it before, but I just wanted to like show like with streaming versus like a home game, just like what that means. And I know some people, like if you follow my Twitter, you've seen this before, but like this is not all of them. This is what I could quickly find. Like this is my life. When I'm playing, I'm obsessively taking notes. Like I'm trying to like make sure that I'm present, make sure I know. So when those moments come for like intense or heavy moments, like I'm there. I'm in that headspace. I'm like ready to go. Like I don't want to say that it like I'm going to say this, but it's like it's game and it's fun and I enjoy it. But like it's kind of like a job. Like it's kind of like this is work. This is effort. And the more work and effort I put in, the better it comes out, you know? And like there are certain streams or certain things that it's like less work, right? So like one shots or the more improv-y stuff. But if it's a campaign and if I'm committing to a character, like I'm putting in the work, I'm putting in the effort, I'm putting in the time to make sure that like I'm discovering that character or immersed in that character's experience. And I would say that's one of the big differences. But Saint, I want to know your question.
It's not really a question, but it's something about being a player that is kind of a rule in my games that I wanted to expound on.
Okay.
I don't let players use accents
Mm.
unless they're really good at it. Because it is a show, right? And the second that, like, if you're not comfortable doing accents, if you're not good at it, it becomes the accent. The whole point of it is, like, the whole focus of your persona is the accent you're putting on. And so I like to just remove that completely from the streamed game side of things so that people can just be comfortable. And I actually have a little diagram that I just found called, what is it called? I think it's called a Lodan chart or something like that. Hang on. But it's like, it's this ways to alter your regular voice and not be an accent that can become a character voice very easily and very quickly. Because I think that's another difference. Like, nobody cares how bad your accent is at the home table. People are judging you when they watch you.
Yep. 100%. I can confirm, as someone who's attempted accents before, unless, like, I think the most recent example I have is Rory. I'm doing a New Zealandish accent. What's nice about TTRPGs is, like, that's what an accent sounds like in Faerun. Like, fight me in real life. But, like, I don't think I would try to do an accent in, you know, like, something that was a little, like, more earth-based or anything like that. Just because, like, if I can't do it's, I'm approaching it, like, with a level of, like, job, right? If I don't think I can do it well, I'm not going to try and, like, distract myself with how bad I'm doing at it. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be convincing. And if I'm worried about it being convincing, then I'm not focusing on the parts that I should be worrying about, which is interacting with the characters. I'm not hearing what my fellow players are saying. I'm worried how I sound. And that's, I mean, TPK is a great community, because leading into Harper's, a bunch of us were trying to do accents for Harper season 2. We did accent hour, where an hour before the show, we'd all get on the voice chat and we would practice sending each other song lyrics. So we're having to say different words that you wouldn't normally say, and really being really supportive and people trying to, like, do the thing. So I think that's really great.
Yeah.
That was it. I just wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, I
voices and
think that's totally valid.
Mhm.
I think again, like, I think it just depends on what you're comfortable with, and but, like, as a streamer making entertainment, making, you know, I wouldn't go for something if I didn't feel like you want to stretch, but you don't want to break. And accents can be one of those things that are like, you're gonna break.
Mhm. HP, welcome back. I have a question for you, if you are game to field it.
You're muted, my dude.
You're muted, my friend.
Now I'm unmuted, correct?
Yes, you are.
All right, good. Can I want to make a comment on accent type stuff real
Please.
quick. I didn't catch all of that, but I caught almost all of it. Even as a DM, there's that pressure to differentiate your NPCs, and there's the pressure of the accent. But the thing that I am terrible at, and you can watch any show I've ever done, and the fact that I have 2 long-term campaigns that are streamed means that if you meet the same NPC twice, they don't sound the same.
Nope.
I'm not Matthew Mercer. I'm not a voice actor. I'm not. This isn't what I do. This isn't. You know, I see myself as, you know, storyteller, not accent maker. And maintaining an accent is even harder. So what I've tried to do is replacing accents with either certain phrases that NPCs will use or certain things that NPCs will do. And I even do that with my characters. I will. Especially for one shots, because it's easier on one shots to just boil a character down to some simple interaction. Is finding some kind of movement, some kind of action, some kind of, you know, I had the 3 defining characteristics of characters in one shots recently are I had one that would constantly scratch his nose. I had one that was constantly picking at himself with a wand, and I had another one, because it's a stream, you only see upper body, so there's only a few things you can do. And I had one that just had a terrible twitch. So, you know, those kind of defining elements replace accents. Just from that.
And they make it memorable too, because, like, the one shot we did on Top Shelf,
Yep.
with your mage with like the lip licking. Oh my god. Still like huh.
I think
But
that's
Disturbing.
it's like
absolutely.
a replacement for accent.
Mhm.
It's a way to differentiate, a way to distinguish, and there's not that pressure of, you know, saying I know just from the language used that this is a topic that's rolled around a few times. It's the entertainment side of things.
Mhm.
You know, if you can't do it, it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I
It is interesting to note too that what you're talking about is a very widely used tool in improv.
Mhm.
Like if you when we were talking about the acting in TTRPGs thing on Murder and Coffee, I mentioned that what is it, Middle Ditch and whatever improv. They do it all the time. There's a defined character, and every time they switch to that character, they do the same motion with their hands
Yep.
to indicate to their partner, this is the character I'm playing.
Mhm.
So it's a huge tool.
Absolutely. The more characters I play, the more like body language, like stuff that I get into. Like Marty was this. Marty was arms folded, like closed in kind of a thing. You know, like Rory's like leaned up. Like and it's again, you know, we only have this much frame, but like doing that versus Dungeon Bitches, my character is leaned back. She's like, fuck everything. Like it can be different and alternate. And having just those tiny little hand gestures or, you know, like playing with your fingers or touching your hair or whatever. And I find too, like those things help me stay in character. If I feel like I'm kind of losing, like getting out of focus or like not present, I can go back to like the tick or the motion to kind of help get back in that headspace, whether it's shrugging forward and huddling into the mic as Rory, or with Saoirse's like very like shoulders back, like this is me. You know what I mean? Like it's not much, but it helps a ton.
I do have to say about that too. I noticed in the last episode of Roundhouse that some of the people in the Zoom call knew that wasn't Matt that
Mhm.
Mike was talking to, because there were physical characteristics I had established that Mara had. The twitching, the kind of glancing to the side things,
Mhm.
the slumped over shoulders, the not looking directly at the camera ever. I was trying everything I could to telegraph to her that it wasn't Matt,
Mhm.
and it just didn't happen. I felt bad.
That's all good. But can we ask HP the question that he missed?
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
So HP, speaking of memorable acting techniques and moments like your lipping or lip licking.
I did the same thing.
Okay. Are there any specific moments or just things, acting techniques or people that have impressed you a lot in your time acting for TPK?
At TPK, I mean, it's I feel bad because, you know, she's on the panel right now, but the way that Osara X commits to characters is I mean, that says more about the acting space almost anything else. You know, that you can see her taking the notes, you can see her remembering, but when it comes time for the characters to react, you can tell the difference in her characters on how they're reacting. I know that Sarah knows because I can see her looking at her notes. I watched her write it down. I watched her look down at it, but this character doesn't give a shit, or this character has better things to do, or this character sees it differently. So kind of when it comes to that, yeah, first name that always comes to mind is right there. So yeah.
One thing I wanted, because here's the thing, HP. I was sad. I was like, dang it, we're never going to be able to talk about this together because we brought up Marty and Thomas, and you and I have had like off-screen conversations about it, but we've never actually got to sit down in front of people and talk about frickin' Marty and Thomas and like where that came from, how that worked. Like that for me, again, is another like TTRPG power moment, because it's like really we IM'd back and forth at the beginning of the season to establish a couple of things. And then everything else was just I watching you watching me, and just riffing back and forth to build literally one of my favorite like character dynamic relationships that I've ever had. Like truly like powerful. Like those guys would do anything for each other, and I love that. And I love that I felt that as the player.
Marty and Thomas are cool for a lot of reasons in my mind. None of them, defined by traditional definitions of the word cool.
Right.
But it's the reason that I did Thomas the way that I did, and the reason I think it worked so well is something deliberate that I wanted to do is, I've DM'd lots and lots of games. And something that I always love when I'm DMing is when characters interact with each other. It's easy to get into that rote DM talks to this character talks to the NPC, and then it's like it goes, it doesn't create that web. And Thomas and Marty interacted so well together that web was always intact. I mean, and the freedom of what Saint put together, the freedom of the Monster of the Week system allowed us to just create these scenes out of nothing because we were willing to interact with each other and willing to listen close enough. Even the times when we missed, and there's plenty of times when you and I missed each other's beats. We every once in a while it'd come up like, oh, dang it, that's
where he was going.
What
Yep.
that's, but more often than not, it's just that willingness to have that interaction. It's that willingness to commit to that PC to PC interaction that can create something like that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's what I love about Thomas and Marty is just that. That's what you and I were able to do. Maybe once or twice we'd touch base about something, but it was never more than like 2 sentences. And then by the time a scene happened, we didn't even go that route. So
yeah,
what, that actually brings up something for me too. I think a lot for streamed games, because the GMs more so than the players are really focused on optics, like how the show works and looks. But even for players, I think that the more prep that you do, the more information you put in, the more of your backstory you come up with, the easier it is for you to have those connections with other players. And like, I'm going to reference something from the first season of Morningstar, which was Curse of Strahd. First season of Morningstar was Curse of Strahd. There's a moment, slight spoilers, I guess, when the party was leaving the village of Barovia on their way to Vallaki. And I had established that the church bell in Barovia only rang if there was trouble. And there were kids being, kidnapped, and they were escorting Irina to Vallaki. And half the party was like dead set, we made this promise, we're going. And the other half of the party was like, well, okay, yeah, we'll go along. And so I call it a church bell moment now, because it was a moral dilemma that I put in front of them, where the church bell rang, which meant something was in trouble, which meant the kids were in trouble in that town. And the characters turned me off and turned on each other. And every person in that session was like engaged in character. It was a moment of conflict, and it went on for like an hour and a half of them arguing whether to go forward or go back. And it was perfect. There was nothing about it that I needed to step in and change, and it needed to play out because it was all in their characters. I said that to say this: we're terrified we're not going to fill the time. So when you can, and like some of the stuff we write down is just like, fill it with this NPC that might go here or whatever. And so when you have those moments like Marty and Thomas had, when you have those scenes when the whole party just turns on each other and it's literally just you as the GM watching, like, you take an enormous weight off of our shoulders as players. And it's more interesting than anything I would come up with in my head, or any of these people would come up in their head, or any GM would come up in their head. So please take the weight off of our shoulders.
That's the story for us, because we've written down our notes, we have an outline, we have what's going on in the background, and if it plays out like it's in our notes, we don't get any story out of the game. It's those times when the players look at each other and interact with each other that creates a story that
We
you know
don't
now
know.
we are equally enjoying the unknown
Mhm.
story of the game. You know,
Mhm.
it's the shift in how we look at the games we play. You know, where it's entertainment, yes, so that we have to have the inter-party interaction, because a party that doesn't talk together is not an entertaining party to watch. You know, and as GMs, as DMs, we're watching that happen, and then we're like, oh, this is a great scene, it's beautiful. I don't know what's happening. I didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I love every bit of it. You know, just give it to me by the spoonful. And that, you know, when it really comes to, you know, acting for TPK, when it comes for acting for TTRPGs, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, accents, twitches, you know, there's all sorts of advice we can give. The biggest thing I would ever say is just talk to the other party members. That's it. You know,
Mhm.
you don't need 8 pages of backstory. Write a 2-sentence backstory and just be willing to talk to the person next to you in character, and all the acting will start to come together, and the
I-
character will come together. And
The thing you just said makes, like, I want to shout it from the mountaintops, because this is something that I think people don't fully understand. When they come with a new player, they're like, I have a 10-page backstory, and here's all of this information about who my character is. That's not what the campaign's about. The campaign is about who your character is going to be. Doesn't matter where they've been. That informs their decisions, but it's not about exploring that 10 pages. That story's done. This is about where they're going. And sure, it can connect back and tie back, but like, I think one of the magic moments of like, as a player on TPK was like where my character is ending up. Like whether it was Veldani in season 1 and like her going for like finding family, or Marty like becoming like a little bit jaded and finding a friend that he never would have. Like that was what was powerful, not the stuff that was behind them. And like it's to the point now, like Saint can testify to this. Like when I sit at his table, I'm like, yeah, I've got a general idea, and then I'm pinging him in session like, this is where we're going. This is where I'm leaning with this character. This is what I want to do. The exception, I think, to that being Janet, who I think the reason that I love Janet, she's an incredibly vulnerable character for me, because of her backstory, who she's based on in my own life, and where I'm drawing for that inspiration and all of that stuff. And like that, God bless Janet. We're gonna put her on a shelf and keep her safe forever. But like again, the powerful thing for that character was not the way Saint managed it, was pulling the backstory and putting it in front, but it wasn't like me being like, oh, look how interesting and cool my character was. It's how cool are they going to be with this party, influenced by them, shaped by their choices.
You know, I'm
with
actually
this party.
right. You know, I agree. First of all, I want to say this. I agree with everything you said. However, I disagree about writing backstory before you come to the table.
I think it can be, I'm not saying it like anti, I just say I think there's a huge focus on it that I've picked up on.
That's definitely where my mind is, because like how many first seasons of a show have you ever seen that are just terrible, and the show like gets its legs in season 2 or season 3, and then it becomes interesting? A lot of that is that they didn't know if the show was going to take off. They didn't know if people were going to like it. They didn't know if the studio was going to cancel it for God knows what reason, Fox. And so the actors and the directors and the writers and the producers, they weren't putting the work in like that backstory. The shows that are unbelievable from the jump had that moment before. They came to the first episode with established characters. And that's the only reason that I ask for as much of a backstory as I can get, is so that I know who this character is when they start the campaign.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's fair.
And so that I can be puppet master.
A kind of halfway here that I want to bring up is, I think there's a happy medium between the two that will probably yield really good results. I do think you should come with a backstory. What I don't think you should do is come with every minute detail of your backstory filled in.
That, yes.
I think if you are to give yourself a backstory and paint it with broad strokes, it could end up being that the DM takes your backstory, inserts like NPCs, or takes like these kind of broad NPCs out of your backstory and uses them in the campaign. A great example of this is, and don't crucify me, please. I'm gonna bring up Taliesin Jaffe's character Mollymock in Critical Role Season 2. He had an idea that he brought up to Matt Mercer, and he said, "My backstory is I have amnesia. That is it. Do what you want with my character." And Matt took his backstory and made the BBEG of the entire season out of it. So there's a lot of different things you can do with that. Like, does your backstory have blanks in it where you can't remember some of the information, and those can be potential arcs for your GM to discover moving forward? There's a lot of different things that can be brought out of a more broad stroke, less minute detail backstory.
Yeah.
But real quick, Sarah, I don't know if anyone has anything specific they want to talk about real quick before I get into the final topic of today.
Yeah. Chrissy just had a question, and Chrissy, I'm happy to answer this. Janet, my character, is based on my grandmother. She's based on my grandmother, and one of a teacher that made all the difference in my life. And she's kind of a blend between the two. Like #getting vulnerable. My grandfather died of cancer, leaving my grandmother, who was an educator her entire life, widowed, for a long time. And watching like that, seeing her as a pillar in her community, and knowing that there was this loss, and a part of it, my intention going in with this character was to create one of the best of human, like mundane, but like a legitimately like someone who cared about those around them. And I couldn't think of anyone better than her. So when we got to this moment of like, when we got to Janet's choice, it hit hard. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like those were real tears. Like the idea of like having the choice of like seeing someone you love and making that thing, it was easy to get in that headspace because I had that emotional connection back to like my own family in that moment. Like watching my grandma, granted I was very young when my grandfather died, but like watching that happen and then being able to in that moment pull from like how she would have felt or how she would have acted or how she would have seen it, it made it a lot easier to be in that moment when Saint was like, here's what's happening, because it was like, yeah, I'm there with her. I like, this would be gutting, and all the things, because it like there was real feeling there. Like Saint kind of checked in like, you good? And it's like, yeah, but like that it was heavy. It was really fucking heavy. And Saint, like, again, I'm just going to like chime in really quick. This is why it's so important for players to have conversations with their GMs, playing at tables, but they trust, having mutual respect, because we had talked about that. When we had a one-on-one and Saint's like, who you bring into my table? And I was like, this is Janet. This is who she is. She's the chorister of her local church. She was an educator. Her husband was an educator. This is where we're at. So when he notified me before, like, hey, this is going to be rough, like heads up. And I was like, okay. So having that constant communication, but I think there's power in like having those personal connections to your characters, and kind of building it in, because it's meaningful, right? Like I still get like, I'm getting a little emotional now just thinking about it. Like it was a powerful moment, but I think it was powerful because of, again, to Saint's point, putting in the backstory effort, making a connection to the character and making sure that it was there, and then staying true to that through the thing. That's very good.
Agreed.
Agreed. Well, hey, let's talk about the last thing I want to discuss real quick before we end today's session. I want to know if
What
there.
love is? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I do want to know what love is. I was saying
I
that
want
earlier.
you to
actually.
show me.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I want to know if there are one or two things that come to mind when I say what we want to see more of in terms of acting for TPK.
More vulnerability. Like I want to see more people being willing to like explore. I think we're all coming in and like wanting to be like heroes. But I think again, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm here for the RP and the narrative. If you haven't met me or don't know that, hello. But like I want having those moments where we get to see the humanity and the emotion from like characters, because a lot of times like we're heroes of the story and we're gonna fight the dragons and we're gonna do the thing, but like let's talk about it. These are intense, heavy situations that these characters are encountering together, and like seeing more of that role play across where they talk to each other about it, where they get vulnerable with each other. Like we all kind of want to like have our secrets and do the things, but I think I would love to see more vulnerability between characters to say this is hard or this is exciting or this is whatever, because I think that's where the meaningful stories are.
Mine kind of goes to the improv side of things. I think every community of people putting on a show always needs more listening. I think that the moments like the tinfoil hat thing as an example, where someone I mentioned it in the improv for TTRPGs, or I can't remember what the name of that show was. Like when you bounce a ball to someone and then they catch it and then they bounce it back to you. That's the whole yes and process. I think that knowing the ball is coming to you is the most important part of that. And in conjunction with listening, enthusiastically jumping into the game. Like just saying, okay, screw it. This is the direction we're going right now. And just buying into it wholeheartedly. Because I think that you find your character in those moments. You find the story in those moments. You fill in those details of your backstory in those moments. When you just give up and give in and be open to whatever's going to happen. Which is vulnerability, just said a different way.
Yes. Yeah. I absolutely agree.
Recently, a thing that I have been just kind of playing with and experimenting with is being more of a support character, not needing to be the face, the talker. And what I want to see is not necessarily everyone being a support character, right? Because we do need people who, step up and be the I don't want to say main characters, because everyone in the party should have their moment to shine. But I want to see people stepping out of their comfort zones and being characters, players, doing certain things that they are not comfortable with or they would not do normally. For me, this last few episodes of Harper Investigations, I did not, as a cleric, prepare a single combat spell.
It's terrifying, isn't it?
It's terrifying. I did not prepare a single damaging spell. And doing that, it made me think completely differently about my character and how I was playing the character. And it ended up being great because I was able to heal everybody and, do all of this. And while it was frustrating in moments, it's cool to play those different diverse character types. But hey, it is 4 p.m. PST, and I believe, unless I don't have Twitch pulled up at the moment, but do we have any outstanding questions in the chat?
I don't think so. I would give chat, if you have questions, we can go ahead and give you just like a, little 5-minute window to ask, because we'd
Yeah.
love to answer those. Because I think, again, it's important. But I want to tack on to something that you said, Ty. Like trying different characters, right? Trying to play someone who's different than what you would normally play. Not only because because on TPK a lot of times we talk about like system differences or things like that, but really trying to hone in on playing like a different character. And like, room for improvement, this guy. Like the joke, Chrissy will laugh. Going into season 2 Harper's, I was like, I want to play someone who's totally different than Veldani. Like, I don't want to do the face thing. I don't want to be the one trying to figure out the mystery. I don't do any of that shit. And as time goes on, now we have I can't forget how Chrissy said it, but Veldrory. Like it's like it's this weird, like, I always kind of shift back to this like space of, but I want to know the things. And really like putting in the effort, putting in the time to like create a character that's truly different than like my own personal experience or the things that I do is something I definitely as a player would like to do and would encourage people to do more, because it's fun. It's fun to stretch.
Yeah, I mean, God, it is. I cannot tell you how different it is playing Ego from playing Growth. So it has been a change and a challenge.
One
So
thing I've noticed in conversations with both Luca and Sarah is that I think we've all talked about this, that all of our characters are at least an aspect of our personality.
Yeah.
And whether we realize that when we're creating them or not is another story. But like, Elliot is he is a manifestation of some shit that I was going through and still am. Turley is a manifestation of some things I'm going through. And like, I think that with acting and with creating characters in TTRPGs, you can explore yourself as much as the story that you're creating from doing different things and doing different characters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do agree.
I would definitely recommend for those of you who don't do it already, when you are building characters, trying to think about aspects of your life to embody in your characters. It will not only make you feel more connected to your characters, but it will make you feel like you're playing a real person.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimately an acting technique.
Yeah.
Like an entire modality of acting is what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And be curious about what your fellow players are bringing to the table, right? Recognizing like, yeah, you've put in time and effort to like make your character and you think that they're interesting or cool or have neat concepts. Recognizing you're sitting with 3 other people at the table who have done that same thing. And like, again, HP said it earlier, it's the connections between the players that really make something mean. That's where the unknown is. So being curious about your fellow players, what are they bringing to the table and how does it connect to your character, and being curious to like explore that, I think is really important.
Yeah, and to kind of build off of that, Purple Phil in chat wants to know how you can blend playing a supporting character and a main character in a stream game, and I truly believe it is Saint.
Oh, no, go ahead, answer. I'm just saying I have an answer.
Oh,
When you're
good.
done.
I think it is through listening, through caring what your fellow players have to say and do, and then just making sure everybody has the time to do what they want. And a lot of that, I will say, a lot of that kind of falls on the shoulders of the GM as well. Being sure to give the time for that character growth and exploration, which is done very well at TPK. But if you are traditionally a main character type, take a step back every now and then and ask advice of your fellow characters. Let them lead the charge sometimes. Let their strengths shine. It's those tiny moments that will make your party feel more connected and more well-rounded.
So I have two things to say. One, if you are telling a story streamed or at a home game, either one, that has a main character, that requires a buy-in from everyone at the table. It is an ensemble process. And as such, no one is a main character. The supporting characters should get as much spotlight, should get as much focus, should get as much time, should get as much energy and effort put into them as every other character. If you're telling Quantum Leap, or you're telling this story where there's one main character, that's fine. That's the story you're telling. But if you're telling a story like Star Trek or like Newsroom or The Good Place, everyone shares the stage. So I think the leaning into the character is the answer to the question.
Yep.
If you lean into a supporting character, it will feel like a main character. There's this like little quip anecdote about how to approach smaller roles and not feel like you got screwed over in the casting. And it's, when somebody asks you, oh, well, what's Quantum Leap about? And you're the bartender in like the 4th episode. You're like, oh, well, it's about this guy who comes to work one day at his bar. And then suddenly there's this weird person who shows up that's acting all strange. And it's like, it's not about Quantum Leap at all.
Mhm.
It's about my story. Like every person, every character thinks they are the main character, even if they're supporting.
Mm-hmm. And I'll Purple says, so how to slip out of supporting only. I think there's a couple of things here, right? Like, number one, you have to step into the moment. You're not being inconvenient by stepping into the moments. I think a lot of time people are hesitant to, like, there's a moment out there and they think that they'll be rude or they're going to step on things or whatever. Step into the moment. Step up to the plate. Because, like, that's what this is all about. It's about making choices. So if you're avoiding, like, well, I don't want to have to make that choice for the party, or I don't want to, like, step into those moments and, like, play at tables where you support each other in doing that, right? Like, I've been very fortunate to, like, play with certain people that are like, when it's like, I'm going to go for this choice and I don't have to worry about it being antagonistic because I know that they'll have my backs with that choice, and vice versa. Like, I'm going to support when Phil decides to pick up a gun and shoot the NPC, I'm going to step into that. I'm going to react how Marty's going to react. I'm not going to, like, turn to Tyrant and try to control that. He's stepping into a moment that he can see. I'm going to line up and support him in that. So if you feel like you're a backline player, you're a backline character, I would suggest saying, hey, I would like to step into those moments and start bouncing the ball more frequently. Like, when somebody says something, say, hey, I'm open, and bounce the ball at them. Don't be afraid to step into the moment.
I think that you mentioned like the hesitancy to step in, right? I think that this goes back to the listening thing, which if you are listening to the moment that's happening, you'll know whether you're intruding or not. Whether this is a them scene or it's an everybody can join scene. And on top of that, as an actor on stage doing a character, the whole rehearsal process is basically because the actor doesn't know how they're being perceived. Whatever they're doing might not be coming across. And it's the whole role of the director during that process is to tell you, that's not working for me. What are you trying to do there? Well, that's not the way it's coming across. So either find another way to get that across or make another choice. The worst thing that you can do in the acting world in the rehearsal process is not make a choice. The more choices you make, the stronger choices you make, the farther you go with it, the better, because the director can pull you back and say, I like it, but that's too much. You've got to come back. Or I like what you're doing, but it would be better if you did this. And I think that also comes back to the other point we made about trust at the table. Your GM's responsibility during those scenes when they're sitting there watching is to be the director and pull you back if it needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So trust your GM to tell you if you're overstepping, but take the step, because otherwise you'll always be in the background.
Yep. If you're not making the choices, like that's what it is. If you're not making a choice, then you're not participating. So if there's a choice to be made, actively be a part of it. And not just that, like, yeah, whatever the group wants to do. What does your character want to do? What is motivating them? And make that known and like step into the moment.
Well, hey, everyone. Saint, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. It is always a pleasure. And I cannot wait for the next thing that we are all in, which I suppose we will talk about here in a second. But let's go ahead and go around the table and do our sign-offs real quick. I'm going to go first for HP. HP had to run up again, but coming up for HP, he will be GMing Cold Hands, Warm Hearts this coming up Friday, and will be returning on the 28th. Darkest Night, Brightest Light. I know they have like 2 episodes left of this Curse of Strahd campaign. So if you are interested in seeing the finale part 1 and 2 of Darkest Night, Brightest Light, go check that out on the 28th. Cold Hands, Warm Hearts every other Friday. He's an incredible GM, incredible player. Go support his stuff. But let's move on to Saint.
Hi, I'm DMF Saint. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at DMF Saint, as well as running Roundhouse for one more session here on TPK. I'm also in the Bars Refrain here on TPK. I'll let Sarah talk about that. And I run a post Curse of Strahd, post Abyss, currently in Sigil, soon to be in Faerun campaign called Morningstar and Company Incorporated, which Sarah is in. Our next session is tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, where they are heading back into Faerun to get some questions answered about some big picture stuff. Beyond that, I'm in Against the Tides coming up, I think later this month. 21st, where I play a life cleric who is going through some shit, but at least he's got a margarita. And that's all the stuff you can find me at, either here or over at Nat20, which is twitch.tv/Nat20, NATTWNTY.
Awesome.
Sarah.
Hi, I'm Osarix Franco, and if you like my face and the words I say sometimes, you can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Osarix Franco. I'm in a variety of different TTRPG content, both here on TPK and over at Nat20. I am a player in shows here like The Harpers, the last session of Roundhouse, which I promise you're not going to want to miss. I play in Dark Echoes as Irina Kolyana. I'm in Atrium of Aquarius as why am I
Morgan.
Thank you. Why am I blanking at my own character's name? Morgan, thank you. And then you can find me at The Harpers, I'm Rory. You can find me in Nat20 and Against the Tides as Kelby, in Morningstar as Cascade. And then, variety of one shots as they pop up and happen. It's a lot of fun. And then, as Saint mentioned, I do GM the Bard's Refrain. We have a session a week from today, which I'm very excited for, because we're at first part of the finale of this arc, which is like crazy. Like I still feel like it's sinking in, and I like don't know how to feel about it. But I'm very excited. So come check out the beginning of the end of this really incredible cast. If you want to see some incredible players, you should check that out. And that's all I have.
And I am Tyrant. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at DoctorTyrant. I will be in a panel tomorrow, Not Planet Earth, talking about animals and beasts in TTRPGs and homebrewing those different things. on Monday, I will be back for the finale of Roundhouse Alpha Omega. I had to miss the part one of the finale because of a game that I run that I will talk about here in a second. But I am extremely excited for yes, Saint.
I wonder where you were.
I don't know, Saint.
Because you weren't with them in the place they were. Anyway.
Where was I? Find out Monday. Dark Echoes, this coming up Saturday. We are back in Vallaki after the Feast of St. Andrew. I guess during the Feast of St. Andrew.
Still actively happening.
Things are crazy, and I'm going to pull my hair out, except I don't have any. Next Monday, on the 19th, Atrium of Aquarius continuing on. Things are getting crazy. Party members have died and then been resurrected, and I don't know what is going on, but it's going to be incredible. And then the 21st will be Against the Tides. Will be the second episode of season 2 of Against the Tides, and I'm so excited to return to that campaign because it is so much fun, and I just love it so much. The last part of Wrath of the Many, my 4-part miniseries, designed to bring characters from level 5 to level 20 until a complete campaign in 4 episodes, is on the 22nd. If you missed this last episode, go check it out. It was a lot of fun. We had a prison break heist, kind of boss scene type first part of the episode. Then we had like a temple run kind of second part of the episode where the players got some awesome boons and items and had these challenges. So go check that out if you haven't. Part 4 is going to be awesome. I've started homebrewing the final boss, and oh my god. But that is all I am in coming up. Thank you all so much for watching. Please stick around for the next panel. And we are, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you very, very, very soon. Appreciate your players. Say thanks to your GMs, and just keep being awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.